I had a hard time deciding what I was actually going to tell today, because if you've heard me tell before, you know that Greek myths are kind of my thing. And so when I heard stories from Olympus, I thought about all the different things that I could do. And I thought about all the various heroes that there are. Bellerophon, he's pretty cool. And Achilles, he's great. He's got a great story. I thought about Persephone and her journey to the underworld. But then I took a step back and I thought this was tales from Olympus. And so the focus really ought to be on the gods. And so this story starts way back when, in a place called Attica. And Attica is in part of Greece, and it still exists today, which is how you know this story is true. And the greatest city in Attica was a place called Cecropia, and its king was a ruler named King Cecrops. He'd named the city after himself, because if you name the city after yourself, you never have to remember your own name. And so Cecropia was filled with men and women. And the men were of the sea. They were rugged and salty and daring. They were fishermen and traders, and they went out and they risked their boats against the storms and the rugged rocks that the tides brought them. And the women were of the earth. They were strong, they were fertile, they were farmers and builders and guards, and they kept the hearth fires, and they built and maintained the homes. And there was a symbiosis between the two, which was reflected in their king, Cecrops. For their king Cecrops was a fusion of the two genders. From the waist up, he was virile and masculine. He had strong arms and chiseled abs and a big bushy beard. And from the waist down, he had those sensual feminine curves of a lizard, perfectly forming the two genders into one individual. That's right, half lizard, half man. And Cecrops of Cecropia, he ruled over his kingdom with wisdom and joy. But it was a hard life. The seas were rough and the land was arid. Until one day, a god took interest. And this god was one of the most powerful of all of those who dwelt on Olympus. This god was one with the sea. He could cause earthquakes with a breath and summon great sea monsters with a single coquettish wink. This was Poseidon, who strode into Cecropia, wading out from the waters like some primeval deity. And he spoke to the entire city at once, and he said, "People of Cecropia, I am looking for a land to call my own. Raise a temple to me. Dedicate yourselves to me. Name your land Poseidonia. And in return, true story, and in return, I shall grant you the blessings and the bounty of the sea itself. Let me show you a token of my favor." And he raised his mighty trident, and he spun it above his head, and he drove it down into the earth in the middle of the Acropolis. And where it cracked the earth, there was a rumbling, and then a freshwater spring bubbled and fountained out great geysers of fresh water. "You shall never again lack for clean drinking water, and moreover, if you make sacrifices to this spring, you shall know before you head out whether the seas will be favorable. You need not risk the lives of your menfolk upon the waters." Well, the people were very pleased. Cecrops the king was mightily impressed. All of the men knew the bounty the sea had to offer them, and here was the god of the sea offering just that. And then, striding in, appearing in a heat shimmer, the goddess Athena, standing equally tall to Poseidon, said, "Wait, before you rush to a decision and make a hasty mistake which you will regret, smelling of fish for the rest of your days." "How dare you, Athena?" "Silence, Poseidon. Let me make my pitch. Ascribe to me. Become devotees of Athena. Raise your greatest temples to me, and I will bring you the blessings of the land. Your people will grow up cultured and beautiful. This will be a city of grace and wisdom. And as a token of my faith, let me show you." And she spun her spear above her head one more time than Poseidon had, and she drove it into the ground right next to the tree, and there was a rumbling, and drawing on the spring water that Poseidon had summoned, a tree began to sprout and bloom and crack from the earth, until an olive tree, the first olive tree, stood. "This fruit will feed you. Your people need go hungry no longer, and the oil from this fruit will warm your houses and light your lives. The land around here is arid and dark. I can give you the wisdom to bring nourishment from the land itself." "Well, you've had two offers from one worthy and one slightly less worthy god. Now choose, Cercops. Which of us will you offend?" And King Cercops, he looked up and he went, "How can I choose?" He said, "For 30 years now, we have been a democracy. I am king not by blood or conquest or birthright. I am an elected official. It is how we do things here in Cercopia. It is how we have done things, and it has led us well. I will give the choice to my people and let them choose." People of Cercopia, and they went, "Yeah, we heard. And the people of Cercopia who had heard the offers that these gods had made, they cast their votes. And they voted along a really strict gender line. All of the men who knew the dangers of the oceans and who could see the advantages in being able to know whether they would be favorable or not before you got on your boats, they all voted for Poseidon. And the women who lived on land, who did the farming, who built the homes, who kept the hearth burning, they could see the advantages in siding with Athena. They knew their children would not have to grow up to become fishermen. They knew that they could study and become artists and poets. And voting for the future, they voted for Athena. And because there were more women in Cercopia than men, the people spoke, and the name they chanted was Athena. And Poseidon was fine with this. He didn't care. That's a lie. Poseidon was furious. His anger flushed first in his cheeks, and then in his clenched knuckles, and then in the cracking waves that began to lap, first at the buildings and then at the people themselves. Huge typhoons smashed into the city as Poseidon turned his crackling gaze on Athena, and he said, "Well, sister, you have made an enemy today. Prepare to defend yourself. I do not accept this choice the people have made." And he spun his trident and he pointed it at her. "Prepare to do battle." Meanwhile, the poor citizens, they were down here and the gods were up here. They stood athwart the city and they prepared to engage in divine conflict. Poseidon, one of the strongest gods, he fancied himself in a fight, and Athena simply picked up her shield and spear and said, "Brother, I do not wish to fight you, but if you cannot see reason, I must." And the waves crashed, and the wind picked up, and the ground began to shake, and a sudden thunderbolt split the sky between them, and it landed with a fizzle, and there was Zeus. And Zeus said, "Oh, I've been drinking. There's a fight. What's going on?" "All right, no, I will not have this. You understand?" "Oh, shh. I will not have this. We will have this matter settled before the council of 12 Olympians, not here." "What? But brother, shut up, Poseidon, shut up so loud." And he clicked his fingers, and the three of them disappeared from Cercopia, and they reappeared on mighty Olympus. "Oh, where are the 12 Olympians? Summon them here, I can do that." "You're all here." And the 12 Olympians appeared in whatever state of undress they were in. Hades was having a shower. And the 12 Olympians were summoned. And this was one of only 3 times that Hades had left the underworld. The other 2 are other stories for another time. But they gathered around the great table And Zeus explained what had happened. Fine, these two can tell you. And so the others explained their positions and how the people had voted. And they agreed they would put it to a vote and that it would be binding. Zeus said, I don't want to think about this. As convener of the meeting, I abstain. You can decide. And they voted in favor of either Athena or of Poseidon. And the vote fell down a very strict binary gender line. All of the male gods sided with Poseidon because he was a bro and he bought lots of drinks. And all of the female gods sided with Athena because she was sane and didn't try to sleep with them. And the 12 Olympians were split evenly 6 and 6, but because Zeus abstained, Athena won by a single vote. And the city from then on was called Athens. And Poseidon took it like a champ. He shook Athena by the hand. No. Poseidon returned to the sea and he said, "You have made a powerful enemy, Athens. Let me show you the power of this enemy." And he raised up a mighty wall of water and he went to slam it into the city when the king, King Circus, came and he knelt before the massive towering wall of water and he said, "Mighty Poseidon," and he stuck his head in the dirt, "Mighty Poseidon, you could kill us all with a snap of your fingers, but we would rather serve you second only to Athena. You will have second place in our temples and second place in our hearts. Only tell me what I must do." And Poseidon said, "Wah, wah, wah. I hadn't thought about this. Hang on." The water went back into the sea. "I tell you what, this problem has been caused by you allowing the wrong people to make choices. That's what it is. You're allowing yourselves to be governed by the inferior sex. You can keep my blessing, and I will continue to allow..." Yeah, that's exactly right. "And I will continue to allow you to sacrifice to me and have the blessings and bounties of the sea. And I will even improve your democracy. I will not level your town, and you can keep my blessings if from this day onwards you do not allow women the right to vote." And King Circus said, "Well, that seems like a price worth paying." And so he agreed. And from then on, Athens was blessed firstly by Athena and secondarily by Poseidon. It maintained the blessings of both gods. And women were denied the right to vote. That was the day we lost democracy. And maybe someday, if we're lucky, we'll get it back.